So you guys might be wondering what this awesome piece of 3D printed material is doing on my workbench. Well, let's talk about it. It's pretty cool. So as you guys can probably tell by now from constant Twitter conversations and talking about it almost constantly on the Calvin and Jimmy show, me and Jimmy are going out to Vegas for the Print3D's last 2 shows of the year, which is pretty crazy considering that I struggle to do 2 videos a week. I have the utmost in respect for Jeff pulling off what he does. That guy is seriously amazing. So me and Jimmy decided it'd be cool to give him a little something to, you know, commemorate the 365 days of printing. So I did what I usually do, which is just jump on the laptop and jump into Fusion 360, and I came up with this trophy design. It's pretty simple. It's just a base and a top, and you might not seem that impressive. There's a cutout up here, but when it gets really interesting is here. This is a custom copper inlay that I've created to go into the top of the trophy like that, and tilt it down so you guys can see it, and it lives in there like that. So sadly, I did not get any time-lapse footage of making the body. Originally, Jimmy was going to do it for me, but he ran into some problems and time issues on his end, which was perfectly fine. Also due to Z-height limitations on his machine, the top was supposed to be done in 2 pieces on his end, but that just wasn't looking very good, so we just decided, you know what, I'll do the print work. I'd already made the copper inlay, so we'll go from there. Now, for this, it was very simple. I'm going to put the files up on Thingiverse. As for the copper inlay, sorry, that's not going on Thingiverse. That was a little bit special in how I made it. Now, a couple weeks ago, I released a video about how I made the Jimmy Shaw's Tidbits coin in copper that got given to Chris over Practical Printing, who came up with the design, and one got over to Jimmy because, well, it's his logo and I figured he needed some sweet swag. After doing that, though, I learned a boatload about what not to do when making things like that. Now, don't get me wrong, the method I used was perfectly fine and it worked, but it was not the most efficient. So when it came to making this guy, I did things completely differently. Besides designing it in Fusion 360, I decided to come along and use a 5/64 flat end mill to rough out as much material as I can. Sounds great on paper, except for the fact that the lettering is no more than about 10 or 20 thousandths thick at its thickest point. So in reality, looking back, I don't think that was really necessary. It probably added some extra time, but yeah, well, I tried. The other change I made is I used these tapered engraving bits that you can find all over eBay for printed circuit board making, for engraving, things like that. And I figured, you know what? One of these might actually work pretty well for something like this. Taper on the side of the letters is not a bad thing. It might look kind of cool. And if I can do this in one pass with one tool, man, that would make my life so much easier. Also, being that these tools only have one effective cutting edge, they're very rugged, all things considered, compared to a really spindly 1/32 inch tool, which would not work very well on my machine. So I programmed up a parallel pass in Fusion 360 and pretty much just sent the tool loose. I was able to bump my feed rate up to 30 inches a minute, which is incredibly fast for my mill, at 5,000 RPM with 4,000ths step over, meaning it after every pass it moved over 4,000ths of an inch, and it just went back and forth, as you'll see in the upcoming time lapse. That said, when it was done, I took the part out and hit it down with a Scotch-Brite wheel, which is effectively a maroon Scotch-Brite pad, which is a medium to fine, depending upon what brand it is, pad with aluminum oxide grit in it. This works incredible for smoothing out surfaces, getting rid of burrs, and in this case it worked nice for not only removing any rough edges, but if there was any loose material that had re-stuck to the copper, it came off very easily. So to get this unique coloring effect on here, what I did is I soaked the part in ammonia-based window cleaner, just some knockoff stuff that we had lying around, for about 3 days. It took a while, but it finally got that black effect. The reason why I wanted to try something other than my Chem Black is, one, my Chem Black's getting old and not working very well, and two, it's pretty expensive and somewhat hard to come by these days for regulatory reasons, because it does contain some not so friendly chemicals, although it does work very quickly. I decided to try something else and I was not disappointed. To get the highlighting on the lettering, as you can see, what I did is when the whole part got Chem Blacked, I scrubbed it down very lightly on a piece of emery paper. When all that was done, I came along with some workable fixative, which is something that we used in my art class as I didn't have any clear flat. Seemed to work very good for sealing up charcoal drawings, so I figured it should seal up metal just fine, and it was pretty much done at that point. So the next step is we got to glue this guy into the trophy, and it'll be ready to go to Vegas. Wiggle that around a little bit for good measure. Bada boom. Oh, heck yeah. So that concludes this episode of Make It with Calvin. I hope you guys enjoyed this little behind the scenes look into how I created the award for Jeff over at the Print3D channel. Definitely go give his channel a check out. I'm not exactly sure what his plans are for the new year, but if you definitely want to get some good 3D printing ideas, just binge watch all of his 3DP 365 project. It is seriously nuts what the guy has done, and like I said, I have the utmost in respect to him for what he has done. It is crazy. So, hope you guys enjoyed this. I gotta get epoxy off my hands. See you guys later.